Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm going to show you how the stars are going to affect your life this week. In my videos, I use both Vedic and traditional Western techniques with tropical astrology, not sidereal astrology. I also use the traditional system of whole sign astrology for my analysis. You can use this video to the best of your advantage by listening to the introduction to understand what the week holds for you, and then going to the timestamps for your sun, moon, and rising sign to get a more personalized forecast for the week ahead. Astrology is not designed to scare you. It's designed to give you information so that you know what the good and the challenging energies in the week ahead will be, and you can therefore consciously work with them to the best of your advantage. Remember, knowledge is power. Now, there are scammers about, and so if you should receive a message from me on any platform requesting your money for a reading, know that it is a scam. Report them immediately. And now settle in and let's see what the astral skies have in store for the week ahead. Hello, my beautiful friends. Thank you for joining me for this week's Astro Weather Report and a special privileged report for my Patreons who will also be getting this video but in an extended form. And the reason is that this is a very special week. We are looking at the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio at 14 degrees on the 6th of May. Welcome everyone in Patreon and everyone on YouTube. Thank you for being here. In this video, we're going to be obviously breaking down a full moon eclipse in all its fine detail. And we're going to be talking about the nature of lunar eclipses. We're going to also touch on the eclipse gateway. And that's a special period that we are currently in. As you're watching this video, we are in the eclipse gateway. And so that's something you'll want to pay attention to because it's the energy of the moment related to the eclipses. And so, yes, the eclipse gateway, the nature of lunar eclipses, the general idea behind a full moon in Scorpio anyway, the chart of this eclipse and all the energies that happen to be playing into this eclipse as well. We'll be looking at the Saros cycle of this eclipse, and we'll also check out where this eclipse will be visible and what that actually means in terms of who's going to be affected by this eclipse and its visibility. We're going to talk about what it means if you have key planets interacting with this eclipse, basically at 15 degrees of any of the fixed signs, Scorpio obviously, but also Leo, Aquarius and Taurus, or if you have anything at 15 degrees of the water signs, Pisces or Cancer, then this eclipse will be affecting you. We'll also be looking at the effects of the eclipse for each sign. So on YouTube, you're going to be getting a lovely little 5-minute snippet of what it might mean for you. On Patreon, you're going to get a 10 or 15-minute breakdown of all the things that will be potentially unfolding for you as a result of this lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Now, if you would like to join the Patreon family and get a hold of these really in-depth discussions about the eclipse for all signs, then all you've got to do is go to the link in the description below. You can join for $5 a month. There's 3 new videos each month at the bronze star level that you'll get access to, telling you all about what's unfolding with the new moons and the full moons, and a special educational astrology video as well. There's such a back catalogue. You can spend days and days exploring all the information that's already there that you'll have access to as a Patreon family member. So thank you to all those Patreon family members who support me and the work that I do, putting this information together and putting it out every week here on YouTube. It's because of my beautiful Patreon family members that I'm able to do that and provide this information for you. And my gratitude, my heart is overflowing for my Patreon family members. I pray for them every single day. Let's now start talking about the eclipse, hey? We're going to talk about the eclipse gateway to begin with, because that's the energy we're in at the moment. Eclipses always follow cycles, and they generally come in pairs. Occasionally you might get a trio of eclipses, but in this case we're looking at a pair, and these pairs include a lunar eclipse, which always occurs when there's a full moon, and a solar eclipse, which always falls on the new moon. Now, we've already had the solar eclipse. Now we're coming up to the second one in this pair, which is the full moon lunar eclipse. So the time between these two eclipse pairs is what we call the eclipse gateway, and it's a period that usually lasts around 2 weeks. The eclipse gateway is one of the most potent and magical times of the year because the energy of both eclipses is merging, and it's kind of forming a bridge between one state of consciousness and the next state of consciousness that we're emerging into, that we're evolving into as a result of all the changes being brought about here upon the earth as a result of the eclipses. Eclipses are always huge points of growth. They're huge points of awakening and change. So this moment in between these two eclipses, the solar eclipse and the upcoming lunar eclipse, it's really a time of transformation and renewal for all of us. So can you feel yourself evolving? It's like the period where the baby is going through the birth canal, about to be born into something new, but it's known this state in the mother's womb for so long, and then this just transition period that only lasts for a short time before it's birthed into something new. That's an analogy I could give to the state we're in, a state of transformation with the eclipse gateway. Now, there are 2 different kinds of eclipse gateways. There's the gateway that occurs between a lunar eclipse, the full moon going first, and the solar eclipse coming second. And then there's what we're having this time around, which is the gateway that occurs between the solar eclipse or new moon eclipse, followed by the lunar eclipse or full moon eclipse. Now, depending on the order of the eclipses, the full moon first or the new moon first, the energy can be slightly different. The intensity of the eclipse gateway will also depend on the intensity of the eclipses either side of it, and we can judge the intensity of the eclipses by the proximity of the eclipse to the node of the moon that's the cause behind the eclipse. Just to explain that little bit on a sidetrack for any newbies here, you can see here is the node of the moon, and because there is a full moon occurring here's the moon next to the node of the moon, south node of the moon, because there's a full moon occurring within, well, in this case it's within about just over 10 degrees, I think it's about 12 degrees of the node. That is what causes it to be an eclipse. Whenever there is a new moon or a full moon within orb of the nodes of the moon. Just for those who weren't aware how eclipses are formed. So the eclipse gateway can also carry a slightly different flavor depending on the astrological sign that the eclipse is occurring in as well. So we have to keep that in mind. It's in Scorpio. We'll be talking about what it means to have a full moon in Scorpio, and therefore that will be the effect that's amplified here with the full moon eclipse. So the gateway between the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse. When we're walking this gateway, this eclipse gateway between a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse, obviously the energy is a bit different. Lunar eclipses pull things out of us, okay? And solar eclipses draw things to your life and help you create and direct your life in a new way. Another way I could phrase that is the solar eclipses are externally focused on external events that affect our lives, whereas lunar eclipses are our feelings, our emotions generating change for us that's, from within to without. Solar eclipses are from without to within. The change comes from an external event. In the case of a solar eclipse, the change comes from our own inner changes, affecting then what we decide to do. So when the gateway starts with a solar eclipse, it is a sign that you need to put your dreams into action. It's a sign that it's about taking the steps towards change, to go after what you really want, to say, hey, I want that new job. I'm going to ask that girl on a date. I'm going to move from Brisbane to Melbourne. Why you'd move to Melbourne is beyond me. But anyway, that's what happens. You need to take some sort of action during this 2-week eclipse gateway, when the gateway starts with a solar eclipse. It's an action-oriented 2-week period. It's also a sign that you need to get more action-based energy into your life and to start matching up your words with your actions. If you've said, I always wished I could go and do blah, 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 well, time to put your money where your mouth is and really make it happen. If you don't, then you can sit there being a victim the rest of your life. The eclipse gateway is the time for, between solar and lunar, it's the time for taking actions to match our words. So as we walk this eclipse gateway, we get a feeling of support from the universe, from the divine, from the energies around starting something new, and we feel guided as we take the next step. I wish I could give you the illustration of what's unfolding in my life at the moment, but it's not quite the time. I will be sharing that very soon, I hope, in upcoming videos. But there is a big apocryphal change occurring in my life as a result of the eclipses and the energy that we're under with these eclipses. But I do feel very much that I'm being guided, like the universe is pulling the strings, the universe is orchestrating the gears. I almost feel like I don't have a say, that the timing, the astrological timing, is being guided by the divine, as it is for all of us, which is why we love astrology, isn't it? But this eclipse gateway, it's a very high energy time, and so it's likely that you'll feel a burst of energy and inspiration after the solar eclipse, which we've already had, and we're in that zone now of high energy. But as we get closer to this lunar eclipse occurring on the 6th of May, the energy begins to change and to shift, and we start to become more internally aware of what is blocking us inside from being able to move forward. Maybe we're self-sabotaging, maybe we're nervous, maybe we're scared. Things within us that are holding us back become brought to our awareness, brought to our reality. We may have our dreams and plans all laid out, but the lunar eclipse will alert you if there's anything that you need to do to clear from your psyche before you can move forward. And so it's a real, as we move into the latter stages of this eclipse gateway, we start to become more aware of our own limitations or perceived limitations that we're putting on things. When we end with a lunar eclipse, when the eclipse gateway ends with a lunar eclipse, it indicates that the theme of things is really coming to terms with our own, where we're holding ourselves back, and what we need to release and let go out of ourselves in order to move forward, and what we need to invite in to come in and stay. So I hope that makes sense. It's action to begin with. We've already probably gone through a lot of that action phase. And then we move into a more internal dialogue and internal purification process to help make that eclipse manifestation flow smoother and flow more through the energy flow through us in a greater dimension, in a greater capacity. So in order to navigate through this eclipse gateway season, and going forward into the 6 months ahead between now and the next lot of eclipses, there's going to be a requirement and a need for you on occasion throughout the next 6 months to really go within, to reflect, to sit and ponder who you are, where your limitations are, what you need to get rid of, so you can draw out of you and release everything that's blocking you from actually leading the life that you desire. So some of you, depending on where Scorpio falls in your chart, depending on where Scorpio falls in your chart, some of you might be releasing ideas about love and blockages to your heart about what is love and what does love look like. Some of you might be releasing blockages around your worthiness to have a stellar career or to make enough money to have a flourishing life. There'll be all sorts of blockages and issues that come up. So pay attention, journal if you like, and let's see what this eclipse gateway brings to light so that we can move forward into a greater state of being in our incarnation here on Earth. Let's talk about lunar eclipses now. We've talked about the gateway. Let's talk about full moon lunar eclipses. They usually trigger events within a week either side of the eclipse in traditional Western assessment of eclipse manifestation. So that's the Western concept, a week before and a week after. So I just want to share with you that according to my teachers, who have come from all different varying backgrounds of astrological tradition, not just Western. I have had Western instruction, but also I get my learning from other sources, particularly Vedic and also Hellenistic. So according to my teachers, there is a method of calculation for the full moon eclipse activation period that actually means we've been in the activation period for this eclipse, not the one we've just had, but this eclipse, the full moon eclipse, since the 23rd of April. So practically straight after the eclipse on the 20th of April, 3 days later, we went into the activation period for this eclipse. So as you can see, the 20th of April new moon eclipse and its activation period overlaps with the activation period of this eclipse. And that's why the eclipse gateway is so potent. The energies are very, very full and very, very intense. So this eclipse activation phase has been going since the 23rd of April, and it will last until the 19th of May. So keep an eye on any significant events that unfold for you during this activation phase. They'll be very telling. You know, you might meet somebody new, might get an opportunity come your way. Some experience might come into your life that you only ever dreamed would happen to you. Lots of different things. Now, interestingly, just before an eclipse occurs, there's a drop in the Earth's electromagnetic emissions. I'm having trouble with my words today. And of course, that is a scientific measurement. Now, in astrology, we know that there are many things that science has not yet learnt to measure. Just like 150 years ago, there was no such thing as TV. You know, TV on the TV airwaves, you know, that didn't exist. But since that time, science has learnt how to measure TV waves or microwaves or all sorts of different waves as we head into the age of Aquarius. So what this tells me is, okay, the scientists can measure that there is a shift electromagnetically on the Earth in response to this eclipse energy, but they may not have yet learnt how to measure scientifically the effects that are causing us to experience change. It might be hundreds of years before they learn how to do that. But we can notice the effects. We see the effects. They're obvious. It is clear. Astrology is not a belief system. Astrology is an observational system. We just haven't learned how to measure it yet in scientific terms. So I just want to mention that, yes, scientists have observed a shift energetically because of the eclipses, but there's so much more going on that is affecting our lives, our circumstances, and the synchronicities of things that we experience. Eclipses are very, very karmic. We'll talk about that a little bit later. In mundane astrology, that means world event astrology, lunar eclipses usually affect the masses, the ordinary people like you and I, whereas solar eclipses, which are rarer than lunar eclipses are usually visible from up to 50% of the area of the Earth. Sometimes up to half the surface area of the Earth can see a particular lunar eclipse. Not so for solar eclipses. They're far more contained, far more minuscule in the area they affect. So lunar eclipses are considered to affect the masses, the people, the mass population, whereas the lunar eclipses affect the leadership. Solar eclipses rather, that are smaller and more contained, affect the leadership. So any changes that come with a lunar full moon eclipse will, as I said, be caused from the inside out. Inner changes inside you, emotionally, affect and mature wise, will beget external changes in your world now. So what have you been feeling? It's time to observe that. That's a telling sign. You know, if you've been feeling happy, joyful, loving, sad, despondent, depressed, what have you been feeling? It's telling you something about what this eclipse is doing. What have you been letting go of during this time? What have you been wrangling with in your inner world since we last had an eclipse back on the 20th of April? The new moon in Scorpio the new moon that we had in Aries 2 weeks ago. What have you been feeling since then? Is it delightful? Is it joyful? Is it affrontive? What's happening? Because that is very telling about what is changing inside you. And just on a note that in that regard, sometimes we can be afraid of change. And so we might be feeling fearful. We might be feeling scared. We might be feeling apprehensive. It doesn't mean something bad is going to happen or something ominous is going to happen. It may mean, very likely, that you're about to shift gears in your life, and change is a little bit scary. Change is, not comfortable always. Change has us dancing on our toes, being aware, instead of just relaxing by the pool. So that might be the issue too. Don't think just because you're feeling negative vibes or difficult energy that it means something horrible is going to happen. Some astrological texts actually indicate that a full moon eclipse, a lunar eclipse like this one, is felt stronger by people who are born at night, with a nocturnal chart, where the moon is the more significant indicator than the sun in the chart. Also, in a full moon eclipse, anything that finishes now in your life will remain finished. Anything that finishes now will remain closed to you. You will not go back. So, for example, if a marriage ends, 3 weeks later, you end your marriage as a result of you would end your marriage under the eclipse energy and say, that's it, I can't do this anymore, I'm out of here. 3 weeks later, you might say, well, okay, let's try again. But it's almost a case of too little, too late. You'll try again, you might put, 4 months effort in and then realize, I can't do this. This is ridiculous. So even if you do go back, it will not last. Anything that finishes under a lunar eclipse energy will remain finished for the long term. Because it's about evolving into the next phase of life, into the new you. And you think about a child being born, coming out the birth canal and being born into the light. Does that child ever go back into the mother's womb? No, it does not. It cannot. Because it is a different being. It's in a different state of energy now. And so are you as you're born through the eclipse. So whatever finishes now will end for good. You will not go back. The energy of an eclipse is about realigning with your original purpose and intent that you came into this life with, your intent for incarnation. Now this is especially, anything superfluous to that will be let go of under this energy. Anything beyond or less than your intent, you'll say goodbye to. Now, I have to just point out that there will be a lot of goodbyes. Things will be closing, things will be ending with this eclipse because it's with the South Node. The South Node is our past. The North Node is our future. South Node is letting go of. South Node is saying goodbye to. So there's going to be a lot of things that are ending now so that you can move forward into your future. Keep that in mind as you say goodbye, wave goodbye to who you were. It's happening for a reason, so you can create space to move into your destiny and your future. So tell yourself that if you're really struggling with the change. And remember to always act with kindness, to always be forgiving. If you might be the one that somebody is letting go of because of this eclipse. You might be the one that somebody else is waving goodbye to. That is okay. People do not owe us anything in this life, neither do we owe anyone anything except kindness. So always be kind, always be gracious, no matter what or who is leaving your life under this influence. And this includes being kind to ourselves. Be gracious to yourself, be compassionate to yourself, whatever this eclipse brings about in terms of what you're letting go of. Now, that said, we also need to allow in what needs to take place. Fighting eclipse energy is a waste of breath, a waste of energy, a waste of time. The universe is going to do what it's going to do. Can you hold back the tide? That's the effect of the moon. Can you hold it back? No, you cannot. Don't fight the effects of the eclipse. Eclipses are always going to do what they're going to do. And the best we can do is go with the flow. If something is releasing out of your life now, it's the correct time to allow it to go. So that can mean that it's an emotional time, and that's okay. But remember, as I've just said, life's endings herald life's new beginnings. So there might be some news during the activation period of big life events that will affect you. And this might come in between the 23rd of April and the 19th of May, the activation period. So you might get a letter in the mail or an email. You might get somebody ring you up. You might get a job offer. You might meet somebody new. There is some newsworthy event that occurs in your life. Often there'll be a random event that you didn't expect. Like something that's surprising and shocking that comes out of the blue. The South Node, who's forming this eclipse, has the energy of Neptune, whereas the North Node has the effect of Uranus. Uranus is shocking. So Neptune, well, I've just said that the eclipses can bring shocking events, and they do, surprising events, sudden events. There's also an infiltration, because that's how the energy of the South Node works, a bit like Neptune. It's misty, it's foggy, it's not quite clear, but it's infiltrating, and all of a sudden we wake up and we go, I'm not the same person, I'm different, I can't do this anymore, I have to let go of that, I have to walk this path now. But it comes in like a mist, like a fog. So my fault for saying, my mistake for saying it comes in shockingly, it's infiltrating, but you will wake up all of a sudden and go, I'm different. Life is different now. Also, under full moon eclipses, the true character of somebody might be revealed for the first time, and it might not be pretty. I was working for somebody many years ago who decided to fire me under an eclipse for no reason whatsoever other than it was tax time, and this woman decided that she didn't want to have to deal with the tax issues of my employment. So goodbye, Kesenya, with no warning, no mediation, no nothing, just out the door. It was disgusting, I have to say. It was absolutely disgusting. But that said, it's led me, as I've been talking all along here, it's led me down a path of my destiny, my purpose, my mission for being here. So in a sense, I'm very grateful that that ended. But up until that point where I was let go, the character of this particular woman had been hidden under a veil. And she put on this wonderful show of being generous and benevolent and loving and kind. And then when it came down to the crunch, her true character was revealed. She was money hungry. She was self-absorbed, and need I go on. There's many other things I could say that really came to light under the full moon eclipse. So that's just an illustration, and I'm not meaning to be petty or small. I'm just trying to explain. You might see the true character of somebody under this eclipse that you've never seen before, and it might really knock you for a six, as we say in Australia, really take you by surprise. Oh my God, I did not think they would be like that. I'm shocked, We should also, under an eclipse, pay attention to all events, all news, all gossip, all interactions within the eclipse season, as I've said, because they're going to be important telltale signs of what might be unfolding significantly for us in the next 6 months, until the next set of eclipses, that is. If this eclipse is falling on your birthday, therefore the sun is at 15 degrees of Taurus, which is also the same place as your natal sun placement. If this eclipse is falling on your birthday, it's going to be a very key year in the course of your life, because you will be carrying this eclipse energy in the chart of the year ahead, your solar return, year ahead, influence. So you might experience firstly changing career. That can happen when we're dealing with sun energy, because sun is very connected to how we shine in the world, usually through career. But basically, there's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of redirectioning in your life as a result of your birthday chart carrying an eclipse in it this year. If you are Cancer rising, sun or moon, then you can also be very affected by this eclipse as well, because the moon, who is causing this eclipse, rules your sign. So your sun sign, moon sign, or rising sign. So of course, you will feel this energy quite deeply. This is a climatic time. Eclipses always are. And so are full moons. But this is like a full moon on steroids. So what unfolds now will be the climax in your life of something that has been building and building and building in your life, quite possibly for at least 18 years since the last set of eclipses occurred in this particular Saros cycle. And the Saros cycles are something we're going to talk about shortly in this video. But yes, look back to 18 years ago. What were you doing? Where were you at? Who was in your life? What was significant and unfolding? Well, something might have been building to this point that is now concluding for you. My son was born 18 years ago and now he's become an adult. And so there's definitely a concluding energy that is unfolding for me with this particular set of eclipses. Now let's have a look at the full moon in Scorpio energies, because as I've already mentioned, that gets amplified under an eclipse. It's not just a regular full moon in Scorpio, it's a full moon in Scorpio eclipse. As I've said, life is reaching a climatic peak point personally and globally, and also for everybody in relation to what house Scorpio is in your chart. We're going to talk about that soon. It's time under a Scorpio full moon to excrete something. I mean, Scorpio is connected, is ruled by Pluto, the god or the planet that is connected to excretion and getting rid of stuff. So it's time to purge and excrete what's not working, what's holding you back, time to let it all go and make space for the new. I cannot emphasize that enough, not only because it's falling in Scorpio, but because the moon is full, it's gone as far as it's going to go. It's not going to get any bigger than that. And it's with the South Node, which is all about releasing and letting go of what no longer serves us. Oh, wow. This is a big eclipse for saying goodbye to something, for releasing something, for letting it go. It's time under this eclipse energy to end an argument or a disagreement, which is wonderful because, again, time to let it go. Some people under this full moon eclipse might be feeling a bit paranoid, a bit G'd up in their energy, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So have some strategies to calm your nerves, to soothe your soul under this eclipse energy. You know, make sure you've got plenty of bath salts and a bottle of wine, if that's what you like to do, to chill out and relax. Intense emotional release can occur as a result of this eclipse. I mean, emotionality or extremes rather are Scorpio energy. And so, you know, if this eclipse is about letting go of something in the sign of extreme emotionalism, then some extreme emotion might be sort of releasing out of your life. And for many, that can be a blessing. There can also be a release of toxic people out of your life. And it's an energy of extreme intensity. So I've talked about emotions being extreme, but the energy that you're feeling might be extreme as well. So extreme events that are of a high intense level might be what the full moon in Scorpio is bringing about. So my friends, it's a big time. Let's take a look at the chart of this eclipse. Well, firstly, we have the moon and the sun in opposition, to one another there, which always causes a full moon every time it happens, once a month. But also this time we're in proximity to the nodes, which is causing the eclipse. So on the 6th of May at 14, I've been saying 15, it's actually at 14 degrees of Scorpio that this is occurring. So it's eclipse time again. The eclipse is focused on releasing and letting go, which we've established. Evaluate what's leaving your life right now. Let it go. Be at peace with that. But, you know, this eclipse carries a wide orb of just over 10 degrees from the South Node. And Mars is the ruler of the eclipse. In traditional astrology, Mars rules Scorpio. And there's so much to be thankful for, because Mars, thank God, is finally back in the bounds of the sun after having spent months being wild and erratic out of bounds. So here's Mars over here in Cancer, finally come back into the fold, you know, being restrained. He's been like a horse that got out of the paddock and is just running wild and running amok up and down the lanes. And we've finally captured the horse and popped him back in the paddock where he can't get up to mischief anymore. That's Mars now back in bounds. Thank God for that. I mean, if this eclipse was occurring with an out of bounds Mars, it would be hang on to your hat big time. But once again, the energy is of an extreme nature because of the Saros cycle. And I will talk about that in just a second. So yes, Mars is more contained, but this is still an extreme eclipse. Extreme sensuality, extreme sexuality, passion, lust. But the intensity of the eclipse is a bit more manageable because Mars is back and is contained. So reflect on the energies that have been present on the Earth since Mars went out of bounds in around about October, I think it was, last year. I mean, there's been a high level of frustration and angst, irritation, divisiveness. Oh my God, so much divisiveness. Warring, protests. It has been heavy duty while Mars has been out of bounds. So I'm glad the out of bounds period is over because Mars out of bounds has been part of the previous set of eclipses that we had, which brought about a lot of upheaval. But look, we can still expect to see heightened passions in the world around us because of the Saros cycle. And I will talk about that soon. But I just had to mention that we can be glad because Mars is not as potent or wild, I should say, as he has been. Okay, so that's really what is occurring. There are no real, look, we've got loose sextiles from Mars to the Sun here. There's really not a lot else happening in the chart of this eclipse other than an opposition between the Sun and the Moon in intense Scorpio with an eclipse. There's very little else that is playing in. Maybe we could consider actually a conjunction of Uranus with the Sun. But in an eclipse, the focus is on a full moon eclipse. The focus is on the moon, not so much the Sun. But look, moon opposite Uranus, again, we could get things we didn't expect to see. Sudden things occurring. Mostly it'll be infiltrating like a mist, like Neptune, like I said. But there might be some sudden things, some surprising things, Let's combine these energies and say, okay, in this full moon eclipse, you're feeling this way and you're feeling this way and you're feeling this way. And then suddenly, Uranus, you wake up and you say, I can't live like this anymore. I must change. And you make a sudden impulsive decision to go in another direction. But it's as a result, like I said, of this infiltrating, misty nature of letting go. So that's how I see that Uranus tying into this eclipse, bringing surprises and shocks to the system, but after a period where it's been sort of creeping in anyway, So that's really what I'm seeing with regard to this eclipse. And there's not really a lot else going on that is affecting this eclipse. Okay, let's talk about the Saros cycle. I've been building up to this for a while now. The lunar Saros cycle, they're about 800 years long, whereas the solar Saros series are about between 12 and 1400 years long. They tend to begin at the equator and they contain 45 to 47 eclipses per series. That's the lunar eclipses, but the solar Saros series, they begin at the North Pole or the South Pole. So they're a little bit different, solar series and lunar series. So beyond an orb of 12.15 degrees from the nodes, a lunar eclipse can't take place. And this one's about 10 degrees apart. So it is a weaker kind of eclipse because it's so far from the nodes of the moon. Lunar eclipses have their own Saros series, although the information on the astrological lunar eclipse Saros series is very, very hard to find. I know that it exists, but I have not been able to come across any substantial information on it. And just so you're aware, if you go Google searching it, NASA Saros series are completely different to astrological Saros series. Keep that in mind, okay? So you could look up Saros series and get completely, led down the garden path by the NASA series rather than the astrological information, which is what we want. However, I just have to say that lunar eclipses are still part of the solar eclipse Saros family, and this particular set began on the 3rd of October 1103 and will finish on November the 5th 2347. We talked about this in the last video I did on eclipses, this particular Saros cycle, which is still in effect with this particular full moon. This series of eclipses, it repeats every 18 years, not every 19 years like the Metonic cycle does. That's something different. This is an 18-year Saros cycle eclipse. It carries the energy of the initial eclipse birth chart. And so we can be feeling the effect of the eclipse birth chart that had Pluto opposing, or Pluto as part opposing the eclipse. It was conjunct Venus and Mars midpoint. And because of these three planets, Pluto, Mars, and Venus, the influence upon this eclipse is very important to pay attention to. Our sensuality is heightened. We're confronted with our own deep passions. We look within and see where we're feeling passionate, where we're feeling desirous. Passions that we have repressed or hidden, sometimes for lifetimes now, might surge to the surface under this eclipse. Sudden sexual passions, sudden lust. So quite an interesting effect of this Saros cycle set of eclipses. Like I said, this one has its own influence as well, but this is still part of this set that occurs every 18 years. So let's now look at where this eclipse is going to fall and what that means for society. right, now let's look at when we have planets in a conjunction with the moon. What is it going to mean for us in this eclipse season? Well, here, if you've got the sun here, you might be going through some career shifts, some career changes, letting go of an old career in order to embrace a new career. Of course, it all depends on where Leo falls in your chart. And the sun rules Leo, so it might be having an effect on that realm of life as the sun governs Leo. But here in Scorpio, just generally speaking, you might be called upon to shine in some sort of crisis situation or crisis management circumstance. You might be, look, it is a sign connected to surgery. There might be a need for surgery in some way as a result of this eclipse. You might be drawn to careers that are very scorpionic now. You know, maybe a psychologist or a drug therapist or a surgeon or something like that. You can be given a position of leadership. Just be careful of, you know, being maybe somewhat manipulative if you get offered a position of leadership. That can happen though. You might be given a chance to lead in some way. You know, if your power has been taken away in your life in some capacity, this full moon eclipse can give you the strength to take your power back again, the capacity or the circumstances to take your power back again. Also, the sun has connections to the father, to father figures in our life, and so there might be some change, some shifts occurring either with your relationship with your father or just with your father and his life in general. Now, if you have the moon here, then you'll be definitely going through some big emotional shifts. Have a strategy ready to nurture yourself emotionally during this eclipse season. It might be affecting your mother, this eclipse. She might be changing, or your relationship with her might be changing in some way. You may feel more bonded to your mother as a result of things that happen around this eclipse as well. Sometimes an eclipse like this falling on the moon can indicate power struggles with a mother or troubles with a family, perhaps. Maybe letting go of some old family attitudes and behaviors and beliefs, perhaps. You might feel, because in Scorpio moon is actually a debilitated place for the moon to be, although usually it's in the first 3 degrees of Scorpio that we see the moon in debilitation. But Scorpio is a difficult sign for the moon to be in, generally speaking. And so there might be some hidden things about the family that come to the light as a result of this eclipse that are illuminated for you now, that change your life circumstances or your opinion on family and life in some way. There is a need to protect yourself perhaps under this eclipse energy, protect your emotions, protect your state of well-being, protect your mental health because of this eclipse falling on your moon. The moon is our feelings, and the moon likes flow and ease, but Scorpio, as we've established, is extreme and chaotic. So there can be a tension that's part of your life as a result of this eclipse. You might feel like you're struggling to master and control your feelings. That could feel very difficult and very challenging. There might be some sort of, if you've got the moon in Scorpio, you're probably a very shamanic style of person, potentially anyway, but that could be heightened now. You might get intuitive insights or have a shamanic experience, maybe an out-of-body experience or something like that, or intense dreams, that kind of thing. So heads up, anyone with the moon at 14 or 15 degrees here of Scorpio. Then if you've got Mercury at this point in the chart around 14 degrees of Scorpio, well, your thinking is what is going to be affected by this eclipse. You're going to be thinking and pondering very deeply. Maybe you develop a distaste for small talk. You want to talk strategically. You want to be observant and calculate before making a comment. So that could be a shift in your usual dimension, but it's, likely to be your circumstances are likely to encourage that in you, the introspection, the observation before speaking. You might look very calm on the surface, but your thoughts might be running wild underneath as a result of this eclipse. You might be meeting with people who share secrets with you. You might be sharing secrets with other people. You might be trying to get to the bottom of something as a result of this eclipse, trying to understand something. You might be very skeptical of your friends right now. You might be Mercury's friends, and this full moon eclipse in Scorpio can make you be a bit wary about your friends for some reason or other. You might be given an opportunity to communicate to the masses under this eclipse, to write, to speak, to stand up and address the masses in some way, either online or in person or something like that. So in that sense, it could bring some great opportunities for oration for you into your life. Now, if you have Venus here at 14 degrees of Scorpio, this will usually trigger some intensity in your love life, in your relational life. There might be some drama that unfolds with your relationships. It will just generate outside of you. You won't have to do anything. It will just be there. So yeah, you could make the most of this if you're feeling highly charged sexually and you're in a relationship. You could direct the energy into that. Decorate your bedroom with Scorpio colors, and which is blood red and wine colors. Get some sexy lingerie and sheets and what have you, and make it fun, and use that energy of the eclipse and its Saros cycle sexuality to your advantage if you've got Venus here and you're in a healthy, loving relationship. But there might be a rejuvenation of some sort of style or fashion in your life. There could be even a rejuvenation of a female friendship, a girlfriend, if you're a man or a woman, a girlfriend coming back into your life in some way, a rejuvenation or a revitalization of something to do with the feminine, a woman, something beautiful, something fashionable, that you see a pair of jeans like you wore when you were 16 and you're like, they're for sale, and you're, oh my goodness, I'm going to buy those because they remind me of the jeans I wore when I was 16. So there's a rejuvenation of something from the past that could happen with this particular, if you've got Venus here at 14 degrees of Scorpio. Now, what about Mars here at 14 degrees of Scorpio? Well, Mars rules Scorpio traditionally, and Mars is the ruler of this eclipse. So it's about, this energy could manifest a new idea, a strategy to get what you want out of life, to really make it happen for you. Mars represents how we get what we want, and Scorpio is an energy that will tend to use any means necessary to get what they want. They can be very, in the shadow side, very manipulative and coercive. So, look, I probably don't want to talk about the morality of Scorpio at this point. Come and join me at the Royal Stars Academy if you want to know more about that. But you might be very focused on achievement and success, putting passion into your life. And because of that, because of the passion you're putting into your achievement and success, you might actually get opportunities. You might get offered a position, offered a leadership role of some sort. You might win over an enemy, win over some difficult situation. You'll be very wise about when you act under this eclipse, and that is a heightened intuition about when's the right time to step forward. So that can actually be a blessing. There might be something about this eclipse that affects the sexual organs of the body in some way, because Mars is and Scorpio are very connected to those things. You will, like I said, for Venus, you might actually be very inspired in your lovemaking because it's such a potent Saros cycle of sexuality. And of course, all of this, remember, the lunar eclipse is what's going on within comes out externally. So if you've been longing for a sexual experience, or you've been feeling lonely, or you want to heighten your tantric lovemaking with your partner or something, then you've been thinking about those things or just pondering on it and feeling like you'd like to, then it can manifest into reality now as a result of the eclipse falling with Mars at this point. So they are the inner and most potent planets. Now, these planets I'm going to talk about now, from Jupiter out to Pluto, are generational, but we'll talk about them briefly anyway. If you've got Jupiter at around 14 degrees of Scorpio, there could be some shifts happening regarding what you believe, what you consider to be moral, what you consider to be just and right. that could be changing now under this effect. Jupiter represents easy access, so I do feel that if you've got Jupiter here, this eclipse is going to be kinder on you and flow more easily with you. You might have easy access to secrets or to the occult knowledge, or easy access to some scorpionic therapeutic healing or miraculous healing, or easy access to past life remembrances as a result of this eclipse. So you might be having, spontaneous past life memories that happen under this eclipse energy. So pay attention, write them down. Don't discount what visions you have if you've got Jupiter here. Jupiter brings many of something, and if you've got Jupiter falling with this eclipse, you might get many opportunities for Scorpio things to sort of experience a rebirth, a renewal, a transformation, a revival. So you could go through a very, very big shift in life, a very, very big change if you've got Jupiter here. But actually my son has Jupiter there. It'll be interesting. It is likely to come with ease. Whatever the change is, whatever the transformation is, it's likely to come with ease and blessing, because Jupiter is the great benefic, and Jupiter is also about things going forward into the future. What happens now is very definitely going to affect your future. Okay, Saturn. Saturn is also a generational planet. If you happen to have Saturn here in Scorpio, you would be joining about 2.5 years worth of babies born with this placement. So quite a lot of people born in that time, making it a generational placement. Saturn is not so flash in Scorpio because Saturn and Mars are enemies. However, in Vedic astrology, we do consider Saturn to be neutral rather than debilitated in Scorpio. Scorpio is this sign of big change and deep healing, and Saturn could just make that process that's being triggered by the eclipse a little bit harder, a little bit more difficult. You're going to have to work hard to heal. You're going to have to work hard to change. There might be a resistance to the changes that the eclipse is trying to bring in. I would suggest also looking at whatever signs in your chart Saturn rules as well, knowing that there's likely to be some significant effects in those realms of life, the houses that Saturn rules, of course. Saturn is fear. And here in Scorpio, you might be feeling afraid of death, afraid of hidden mysteries, afraid of change. And that's part of the resistance factor that this eclipse with Saturn, if you have it at 14 degrees of Scorpio, might be bringing about. So, higher manifestation of Saturn here, though, is to be able to harness your fears by mastering them, becoming the master over your feelings, over your fears, becoming the expert and the wise one, the person who's in control of themselves. And there's a great power with that energy of Saturn. There's a great power with that. So I would suggest that no matter what the upheaval or the catastrophe that might unfold with this eclipse, if you channel Saturn at the highest vibration, you have mastery over what happens. You have the maturity to handle what happens, and you have the endurance and the stoicism to handle whatever comes your way as a result of this eclipse. Now, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are even more so generational planets. So I'll just talk very, very briefly about them if you have them at 14 degrees of Scorpio. Uranus will, if you've got him here, you're actually midway through life, because you'll be having your Uranus opposition as well. So this eclipse could bring a lot of upheaval into your life because you're in what is commonly referred to as the midlife crisis period of life, sort of that period around sort of between 40 to 43. And so if that's you, this eclipse will be potent. It will be affecting how your generation is being directed in life, and will be sort of shuffling you in the generational direction it wants you to go. Now, if you want to know more about the generational influences of Uranus in opposition to itself, do take my webinar all about midlife astrology. It will really inform you and help you to understand what's going on. Now, so this eclipse is just going to play into those midlife energies, which are very potent. Neptune here. Neptune falling at 15 degrees of Scorpio, it's just going to be more of the misty infiltrating, but it can bring a miracle your way, can bring some magic into your life that really uplifts you, empowers you. Neptune is such a planet of contrasts. He can be really difficult and deceptive on one level, but on a higher vibrational level, he can be magical and angelic. So my prayer is for everybody watching this video that if you've got Neptune here at 14 degrees of Scorpio, that higher universal love comes into your conscious awareness, that miracles happen, that soulmates arrive, that magic occurs in your life as a result of this eclipse on your Neptune placement. Finally, if you have Pluto here, as many of you will have who are watching this, again, it's generational, but it's very, very important. I mean, Pluto rules Scorpio, so it's kind of like a double whammy Scorpio effect. Big transformation, big change, big upheavals, big, being burnt to ashes and then rising up again like the phoenix. So there's likely to be some event that occurs as a result of this eclipse that's going to completely change your life, really radically transform you and turn you around. So hang on for the ride. You guys could be going through some significant rebirthing as a result of this eclipse. And just to conclude this section on planets with the eclipse, you can also consider the AC, the DC, the MC, the IC, any antitia points or contra antitia points, any midpoints, Brigu-Bindu points, any of those areas of your chart. If they fall at 14 degrees of Scorpio, you can pretty much guarantee that this eclipse will have some kind of effect on you in a significant way. But I'm not going to go into discussing those with you right now because I would be here all day otherwise. And we want to get to the all signs breakdown, which is coming up next. So here we are with the eclipse, the prenumbral lunar eclipse of the 5th to the 6th of May, and where it's going to appear in the world. And as you can see by this map, the whole world, except for there's North America and South America, is going to be able to see at least some of this lunar eclipse. So here is the lighter purple region, covering all of Africa, the majority of Europe, only England sort of out on the outer, they're not able to see any of it. And then we go stretching with that lighter purple out there out into the Pacific. And then we've got the pinky color here covering most of Asia, India, up into China and Russia, and down into Indonesia, Australia, and part of New Zealand, and of course down here to Antarctica. So that is the effect, that's the area of the globe where there could be effects playing out on the masses from this eclipse. So we've already, we've seen a lot of protests occurring in France and the Netherlands, so that might escalate. The masses might rise up and say enough. But there might be other ways that this could manifest as well, where the masses of the populace of these countries might take a stand together or unite in some way. Let's hope it's all for the good in some manner for humanity, that the masses come together for the betterment of humanity, for the good of humanity, and take action for the good of humanity in some way. But that is the area where there might be an effect on a mass group of people, and it's likely to affect you personally more if you are in the path of the eclipse yourself in your personal life. So again, if you're living in any of these countries, then you may be more affected, let's say, than some areas of the globe, such as North or South America. So let's start now then looking through every sign with Scorpio, obviously because the full moon is falling in Scorpio. So Scorpio, you go first off the ranks. So Scorpio, the full moon is falling in your first house. So it's your first house where you can expect to see some sudden change, something reaching the end of the road, and a period of letting go regarding something very personal to you. Now, because this is the relationship axis, it can indicate that you, Scorpio, might be letting go of a relationship of some sort. But you will be the one to instigate it. You will be the one to decide, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, I'm gone. So a relationship that ends now, that you're letting go of now, will be at your say-so. There is also a lot of change in your energy, change in your appearance, change in your aura that is coming with this eclipse as well. So people might meet you and go, oh my goodness, I haven't seen you for ages. You look so different now. But it's actually the eclipse. So you might actually change your style, your fashion sense, you might change your hair. What that is letting go of your old way of looking, your old way of appearing. Or you might look exactly the same physically, like nothing has changed physically, and yet people say there's something different about you. Could be a change in your energy, a change in your aura that is coming as a result of this eclipse. For many of you Scorpio people, you are likely to, something's going to need to be let go of. Maybe you're saying goodbye to an old job or an old entrepreneurial endeavor, something like that, in order to welcome in a new entrepreneurial endeavor, a new idea, a new strategy for how you want to thrive, survive, and flourish in the world. How we thrive and flourish, get my words out, is seen through the first house. It's the house of survival. So from that end, it is an eclipse here says, you're going to change how you're surviving, how you're going about generating the ability to flourish in life. Something is shifting to allow that to maybe happen more easily for you now, or to cause you to get back in alignment with your purpose for how you intentioned to flourish when you incarnated. It's a very healing experience to have a full moon in the first house. The full moon is a flowing energy. And so because of that, to have a full moon, and eclipses are basically full moons, in this case, on steroids. So to have that, it's a flowing healing and soothingness that might come into your life now. Just a feeling like I'm on track. I'm going where I need to go. I'm living the life I was meant to live. And of course, that can be very, very empowering when you feel that way. Because this eclipse is so much about letting go, there may be an end of an era with how you identify yourself. If you've always said, well, I am a mother, or I am a wife, or I am a career man, or I am a father, your I am may change. How you label yourself, how you identify yourself might be coming to an end now. I mean, if you're a father or a mother, you're always going to be a father or a mother. But maybe you've always identified yourself as, I am single. Well, that might be coming to an end now. You may not be single any longer. I am divorced. I am poor. I am rich. Well, whatever it is, you might be changing your identification to something completely different now under this eclipse. So that's the energy of where it's going to be falling in your chart, Scorpio. Obviously very, very personal to you, affecting you in a very deep way, because obviously Scorpio, but it's in your first house. So they're the themes, the realms that it might be affecting you. Now, there's so much more I want to talk about based on rulerships, based on what planets are empowered and specifically important under this eclipse. So do join me at the Patreon family page. Come and join me where I will go in greater depth with all signs. Let's dive deeper into what it means to be having this full moon eclipse in Scorpio in your first house. And for all my Patreon family members, let's continue on. Thank you, Scorpio. All right, moving along. Now we're going to be looking at the full moon falling in the second house for Libra. And you can look at Libra rising, Libra sun, Libra moon. Any one of those will be appropriate. So here With the full moon in Scorpio, it's quite an intense eclipse of releasing and letting go and ending things. So in the second house, it means that Libra, there's going to be some sort of change that's occurring as a result of this eclipse to your value system. What you consider important and necessary in life might completely turn on its head. Maybe you've always thought you've got to have a big 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom house to, accommodate your family or all your hobbies or whatever. And you value having a big house. Well, under this eclipse, something could change regarding that. And you might be like, you know what, I think I just really value a 2-bedroom apartment that I don't have to clean as much and don't have to look after the garden. I think my values have changed. So it doesn't mean anything, going less. It means a change in what you value and why you value it. So another thing that might be happening as a result of this eclipse is that you might be ending a particular lifestyle perhaps, so that you can become more self-sufficient now. So by self-sufficient, I don't necessarily mean going out and planting your backyard with pumpkins or anything, though you can do that, but more how you make your money, how you generate your resources. And obviously food is a resource, that's why I mentioned growing pumpkins in the backyard, but more, I feel for a lot of people, for a lot of you Libran people, it'll be about something ending in your life so that you can generate money on your own terms. Of course, it depends what your natal chart looks like, whether it's geared towards doing so. But you might start a side hustle, or you might find a new way to make money, or if you've got a job that you can earn an income from in a way that suits you well. You're becoming more self-sufficient with your finances now. So maybe you've invested, I don't know, in gold or something, and gold's going really well, and then you can, cash it in and actually have a, big fat wallet or something. There's this ability to be self-sufficient with how you are making your resources and your money, how you're surviving with your stuff. So yes, you could plant a veggie garden. In fact, that would be really good. You might even be gifted, let's say somebody brings around a massive big pumpkin they grew in their backyard. Well, keep the seeds. Under this eclipse, go plant the seeds in your backyard and start growing your own pumpkins. Become more self-sufficient. You might find out that you can get a subsidized free solar panels on your roof or something like that. That's another way you can become more self-sufficient. So there might be some event or circumstance or some opportunity that presents itself that's going to allow you to be more self-sufficient. Look, I'm a Libra moon, as you all know. For me, I am currently having a fireplace. I've talked about this a few times in the last few videos. Fireplace installed, and it should be up and running by the time this eclipse occurs, which is going to help me not to have to pay power bills going forward into the future. So, I am ending my need to have, reliance only on gas to heat my home in the winter, and I'm now operating in a more self-sufficient manner. That's the kind of scenarios we're looking at here. You also, Libra, might be getting to the end of the road with a financial situation. So maybe you're saying goodbye to poverty, or saying goodbye to constant struggle, or maybe you've been blocked out of society, unable to get a loan, unable to get resources, and now that ends. Under this eclipse, a new opportunity comes in, maybe collaborations arrive. You're a Libran person after all, you like to collaborate. A collaboration comes your way that's going to allow you to be more financially stable into the future. So keep your eyes peeled for opportunities now. You are reaching the end of the line, maybe something that's been going on for the last 18 years, but the end of the line with a financial situation that is now ending. My son is turning 18, and that means that in Australia, I don't know about the rest of the world, but in Australia we get government support until a child is 18. And it depends on your income, just how much government support you get to raise your children. But I know we're very blessed to have that in Australia, absolutely. But of course, this is very now pertinent for me because my son is 18, so I'm reaching the end of the line with the government support, finances, second house. So there's another explanation for how that is now playing out in my life. The second house has to do with how and why we feel safe in the world. And of course, that might be changing, might be going through a bit of an upheaval. You might have thought you were safe and secure, and the universe is saying, well, no, don't sort of get too comfortable with anything. Maybe you need to make some, new decisions, or invest in new areas, or take a different approach to how and why you feel safe in the world. I'm not saying that you're going to end up feeling like you should, end up out on the streets or anything as a result of this eclipse. It's not like that at all, Libra. But if you feel safe and secure in the world, in your big mansion in Turak, the universe might say, well, hey, how could you be safe and secure in the world in a house in the suburbs, perhaps? And so there might be a call from the universe to address, not necessarily make the physical changes, but address the concept of how and why you feel safe in the world. Again, I'll use an illustration. For the last 2.5 years, while Saturn has been in my 12th house, I've had to really grapple with my safety and security in the world, and my future. And I came to it was quite a powerful piece with the idea that I'm probably going to end up living in a caravan, hopefully up on the river near where I was born. But that's really probably where my financial situation would take me. And so I came to a peace with that eventuality in my life. And it was a process, yes, but I feel like, I could live that life. I could do that life. That would be comfortable for me, and doable. As long as I have friends around me and beautiful countryside, I know that I will be happy and I could feel safe and secure in that kind of lifestyle. So, that took some time to get there. But under this eclipse, you might be reassessing how and why you feel safe and secure in the world, and the process for you, not to sort of align yourself with a sort of a future of difficulty or poverty or anything, but your evaluation of what is needed in order to feel satisfied and content no matter what circumstances, that might come in quickly for you, because remember, Uranus does have an involvement in this eclipse. So Libra, you might be going through a process as a result of something that happens during this eclipse of again, realigning with a new value system, but reassessing or changing how and why you feel safe and secure in the material world. There's many ways that can play out, so I won't give you any more illustrations than that. But I will say, if you want to know more about how the rulerships of this particular eclipse are playing out, then you don't want to miss the extended version of this reading that I've got going at the Patreon family. The link's in the description below. It's $5 a month. Such a bargain. You get access to a back catalogue of extensive astrological videos and forecasts, plus 3 new videos each month. It's a really good deal. Come and join me at the Patreon family and get all the rest of the lowdown on the full moon in the second house for Libra. My Patreon family who are watching this, now we're going to dive in a little deeper. Thank you, Libra. Now moving along to Virgo rising, Virgo sun, Virgo moon people. The energy of the lunar full moon eclipse is playing out for you. Oh, come on. Stay there. Is falling in the 3rd house. And so this is where you can expect change, or you might see something reach the end of the line, or something's leaving and you're letting go of something to do with the 3rd house. And so there's likely to be some big changes in your point of view or your mental perspective, Virgo. This is how we think. So, your thinking might be about to change quite significantly, but you've got to say goodbye to old ways of thinking, old patterns of thought that now have to say sayonara in order for the new to enter in. This is also a placement, 3rd house, where you might get some big intuitive hunches, big psychic downloads that come your way. If you get those goosebump moments, you need to trust them under this energy. This eclipse will be amplifying those sorts of messages. This is the house of the messenger of the gods. In ancient astrology, it was the natural house of the moon. So having a full moon here is actually very powerful. And it used to represent the house that represented the priestesses who were messengers of the gods if the moon was here. So you, with the full moon eclipse here, may find that you get a message from the gods for humanity. You might be being asked to share some significant thing with the world at large. You know, maybe it's something pertinent to our times, some knowledge, some wisdom that you've gained or channeled. So don't discard anything that comes through. Don't say, well, you know, who am I to say blah, 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 blah. You are a messenger of the gods, potentially, my Virgo friends, with all of this energy playing out the way that it is. Now, this is also the realm of sisters, neighbors, brothers, any siblings. And they might be changing their relationship dynamic with you as a result of this eclipse. You might be saying goodbye to one of those types of people in some way, like maybe one of you is moving, or maybe there's some sort of change in the dynamic of your relationship that's happening. You might get some sudden surprising and shocking news about a sibling or a neighbor or a relative. That can definitely happen. Maybe their lives are significantly changing and you're observing and getting the lowdown on the outside, you know. So it needn't be happening to you. It could be happening to one of these people in your life. Another way it might be playing out, this eclipse, is this is the house of small business and also our skills and talents. So if you have a business idea under this eclipse, trust it. Trust your gut. Trust your intuition for a small business idea here in the third house of small business. If you come up with a new way to share your skills, your talents, your capabilities, then celebrate, because this is a message from the gods for you. And it's likely an indicator of what you need to be running with in the coming days ahead. So in order for this to happen, you might be reaching the end of the road with a existing small business idea. Maybe you've always worked as a car detailer or something like that, and you're like, I've had a gut full of this, I think I need to do something else. And that business comes to an end in order that you can start your new business venture that you are inspired to do. So there's change regarding small business endeavors under this influence. But my beautiful Virgo friends, I have more in store for you if you would like it at the Patreon family page. It is $5 to join. You get access to a massive back catalogue of astrology videos, plus you get 3 new videos every month. What could be better? All you've got to do is go to the link in the description and sign up. And the first video that you will get will be, when it comes, it'll be out by now. First video you'll get will be the extended versions of these readings, where I go into rulerships and planetary influences, how they're playing out personally with this eclipse. So, and for all my Patreon members who are watching this video, let's go a bit deeper. And now we're going to move on to Leo rising sun or moon people. The energy of this eclipse is falling for you guys in the 4th house. That's where it's occurring, so that's where things are going to get affected. That's where you might be letting go of something. That's where you might be experiencing some sudden changes in life, usually with family. So there could be a shift in energy within the family as a result of this eclipse. Maybe, you haven't felt very close to your family in years. Lo and behold, this eclipse comes and you're just suddenly catching up with them all the time. It's like old times, like you never grew apart, and it's all fantastic. Sudden changes in the family dynamic can happen. There could be family losses. Remember, this is an energy of letting go. So maybe great-grandma has been very, very ill for years, and she's finally decided it's time to say sayonara, and away she goes, passing over to the other side. This is the house of the maternal line, so there could be some matriarchal figure that is actually leaving this incarnation under this eclipse energy. And look, that sounds harsh to say that, but eclipses, you look and notice how many people die within the activation phase of an eclipse. It is phenomenal. And yet, you don't often hear people talking about it, but it is huge. I notice it every time there's an eclipse. So, I'm not saying, oh my God, now we've got to be fearful that we're all going to die. No, this is in the house of family, and it could be an elderly family member who's quite ready to leave. Thank you very much. So that's what we're thinking of here when we're looking at this energy. You, my beautiful Leos, will be very psychic and sensitive right now, because eclipses heighten that energy in a very deep moksha house. So trust your intuition now, especially your intuition regarding family or parents. Trust your gut. If you feel like, I think I need to ring great grandma for some reason, I'll give her a call. Do it, because you never know. It's your intuition telling you maybe it's the last time you'll speak in this life. So listen in. What's your gut saying? What's your heart saying, my Leo friends? This is an eclipse where, as I said, we're letting go. So it can represent the end of the line with a maternal figure, as I've just described. But maybe it's that, you're moving away from your parental home. Maybe you're moving away from your mum. So it's not necessarily a falling out or a death, but it's a shift in how you are capable of relating, because there's a separation happening, maybe, for example. There's also potentially the end of an era and a new beginning, therefore starting with a home. So you might be looking for a new place to live. You might be establishing something new in your home. Like I've shared already, but for me, I'm getting a new fireplace that should be up and running by the time this eclipse occurs. So I'm ending how I heat my home, with gas, which is, going up in price. And I'm ending that era of reliance on gas in my home under this eclipse and moving to something else. So that's very fourth house, and I'm a Leo sun person. So there you go. That's an example. New beginnings with something in your home, with a dynamic in your home, with something to do with your domestic situation or your domestic life, with a garden. So, it could mean that you decide you're going to rent out one of your rooms and make some money that way. And that's the end of an era and the beginning of a new one with regard to how your living arrangements operate, for example. There's a million ways this could play out. You end an era of putting up with that dodgy toilet that just never works, and you're going to replace it and have a brand new toilet, and everything's going to be fabulous. So this is what we're saying here. There is a shift and a change coming to you with fourth house things as a result of this eclipse. Now, if you would like to hear so much more about this particular eclipse's energy and what it might be bringing you, I talk an extended version in my Patreon family video for this, which is a 3-hour plus video exploring all these signs in greater depth, particularly looking at the rulerships. So come and join me. You get access to a whole big back catalogue of astrology videos and forecasts. You get 3 new videos a month. It's a great deal for $5. And now for all my beautiful Patreons watching this, let's go deeper with this. And we're moving right along to Cancer, Cancer rising, sun or moon people. Well, the energy of the eclipse is falling for you in the 5th house of the horoscope. What a great place to be having a full moon fruition. So this is telling us that you can expect sudden changes or sudden endings, things sort of just concluding now regarding a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or a live-in lover. Some of you might separate under this influence. Maybe somebody new might come into your life. Now, whatever the case, remember what I said in the intro, that relationships and relationship dynamics that end or change, it's part of the purpose, part of the destiny for it to happen if it's happening during an eclipse. So the best way you can treat this and handle this is to let go and let God, whether someone's coming in or whether somebody's going out. If the relationship is ending, it wasn't part of your destiny and purpose for this lifetime. It's done what it needed to, but now it's time for it to draw to a close. This is also the realm of the chart that has to do with natural creativity and creative intelligence. So you might be getting some sort of unexpected opportunities to show your natural creativity to the world. I want to encourage you under this eclipse, take it. Enter that art show, join that theatre group, write that poem and put it out there in some publication, whatever it is. Take the time, take the opportunity to put your stamp on the world. This eclipse will enhance it. It could even turn you into something of a celebrity because of it. Full moon represents celebrity, in the 5th house celebrity, so that could even happen. And of course, this is a full moon where you're letting go of something that's no longer part of your life, no longer for you, so you can move into what your true destiny is. For some people, that might mean leaving behind a life of anonymity and entering into a life of celebrity. That could be the case for some people with this configuration playing out in their chart. Sometimes we get sudden surprises. You might get sudden news from an old lover. Somebody comes back into your life wanting to rekindle an old flame or something. Or there might be some other romantic gesture that might surprise you. People wearing their hearts on their sleeve as a result of this eclipse. That could lead to some sort of new romantic eventualities in your life. So whether you're single or not, that, you know, well, most of you would be single who would appreciate that. So it could be really lovely. Now this is the house of children as well. And so your children might be going through some upheavals. If you're a parent, give them space, give them comfort, give them time to deal with these intense energies of this eclipse cycle. But they might be ending the road with someone. Maybe they're losing some little friendship group or something they were part of. Or maybe they're feeling like maybe they need to be promoted because they're so clever and so intelligent. And so they're saying goodbye to their old classmates while they go up to the next level. Something is changing. Something is ending for your children if you have this placement. There can also be a lot of luck that comes because of this configuration. Lucky breaks, lucky opportunities. My dear Cancer rising, Sun and Moon people, keep your eyes peeled. There is some blessing on the cards, I think, with this particular eclipse. How lovely. Now, if you want to know more about this eclipse energy and how it is playing out, I give an extended reading at my Patreon family page. Patreon family has a massive back catalogue of astrology videos, plus 3 new videos each month that you get access to, all about astrology and forecasting. And not only that, it's only $5 to join, so it's an absolute bargain. But why don't you start this month by, if you haven't already, by diving in and learning more about what this eclipse will bring you. We're talking about rulerships and planetary influences on this eclipse. And for my Patreon family members who are watching this, it's time, guys. Let's dig deeper into Cancer. And now it's time for Gemini. Gemini rising, Gemini sun, Gemini moon. The energy of this eclipse is going to be impacting your 6th house, Gemini. So what does this mean for you, my beautiful fellow mutable sign? Let's see if I can get that straight. I'm sorry about all the trouble my board causes these days. Okay, an eclipse like this one is where we can expect things to change, and usually there'll be some kind of a letting go that's involved as well, where we've reached the end of the road with something. Now, in the 6th house, it's the house of problems and imbalances. So we may be seeing problems and imbalances all around us, like people who are disadvantaged, people who are sleeping on the street, people who don't have enough food, people who've lost their business, lost their jobs. There's a lot of that around, and it seems to be growing more and more. And of course, I'll just say my piece, we don't see the government doing anything to stop it. It's utterly disgraceful. However, Gemini, you will be very sensitized to the pain that others are experiencing because of this eclipse. You will have a great deal more, not so much compassion, but more of an energy of how can I help? How can I fix? How can we solve these problems? And so you might get some good ideas under this eclipse for how to address these problems and these issues. I mean, the best way to address it is for the government to actually grow up and start caring about their citizens for a start. But you might be able to see some solutions in the meantime, and while we're waiting for the government to wake up to themselves. So you will be very highly sensitized, Gemini, to the pain that other people are experiencing. And look, I have to say it, sometimes there might be some confrontational experiences that crop up during an eclipse in the 6th house. But usually they're going to be, remember this is a as within, so without kind of energy. It'll be as a result of frustrations you're feeling emotionally within you, and it begats an argument or confrontation in the external. So have a plan to protect your energy and to guard your heart in some way under this influence, just in case something like that happens. Now, I had an eclipse on my sun in the 6th house some years ago, and it changed everything that I did for a living. You know, this is the house of work. And I shared in the intro to this video about a particular woman who I lost a job with. And that was the eclipse that I'm talking about. And because of that eclipse, I then needed to provide for my family and pay my mortgage and all those very mundane, ordinary things and day-to-day things that we need to do. And it really pushed me hard, pushed me really hard into establishing what you're now watching, my YouTube channel, my website, and so on, which is the source of my source of living. I don't need to say that in any other way, do I? But that's what that eclipse caused for me. So I use that as an illustration to say something in your workplace might be changing, and it might feel hard and it might feel difficult, and there might be a letting go of something that occurs as a result of this eclipse. And if it does, the reason is that you are meant to be doing something different. You are meant to be working in a different field. Serving people is a sixth house thing. You're meant to be serving people in a different way than what you're already doing. If you're feeling that momentum for change, pressuring your life and pushing you in a new direction. Trust the divine. Trust the big picture process here. It might be difficult. It might be hard. But it's designed to take you into your reason for incarnation. Some of you people might win over a health issue with this eclipse. Like this is an energy of dissolving things, letting go of things, saying goodbye to things. What's the sixth house? Poverty. You might be saying goodbye to poverty. Sixth house is health concerns and illness. You might be saying goodbye to feeling so sick all the time and always having a runny nose or a cold or whatever. You might be saying goodbye to some difficult person that you've been butting heads with for a long time. Yay, the end of the line with these yucky things in life. In this instance, an eclipse in this realm of the chart could be such a windfall for you, such a blessing for you in that way. So it's the end of the road with some situation of conflict or disadvantage, or a health issue. Might be the end of the road with a court case, particularly divorce courts are seen through this realm in the chart, or can be seen. So it's time to say goodbye to those things. I would also suggest that there is the potential that you might also, Gemini, be saying goodbye or ending some dynamic with a family pet or a domestic animal in some way. Not that the pet's going to die, but maybe you need to go away on a holiday for a few months, and so you're giving your pet to your sister to look after while you're gone. So there's a change in circumstances with a pet. So that's the kind of thing that this eclipse might be bringing out in the very simple level of what an eclipse can do in the sixth house. But there's so much more that this eclipse is up to. And I go deeper with this. I talk about this in my Patreon video for this eclipse. It's about a 3-hour-long video where we explore what this means in terms of rulerships and planets that are affecting this eclipse energy as well. So if you want to join, the Patreon family has a massive back catalogue of amazing astrology videos, and there's 3 new videos every month that you can be a part of and enjoy astrologically. It's only $5 a month. What a bargain. And you could start by finding out more about what's happening for your sign. And for all my Patreon family members who are watching, get ready. Now we're about to go deeper. Thank you. And now for Taurus. Taurus rising, sun or moon people. The energy of the eclipse is falling on your relationship axis, the 7th house, Scorpio. Here is the full moon. So this is very, very important for Scorpio people, because the relationship axis is obviously one of the most important axes in the horoscope, because that's such a big focus of life, how we get along with others, how we interact, and the relationships we have. So it's in this realm that you might experience sudden changes. There might be some sort of endings with others in some way. So obviously that could be with clients, with an audience, with a business partner. It could be with a committed type marriage sort of scenario relationship as well. Let me talk a little more about this. Relationships, Taurus, that have been working well up until now, they can simply, under this eclipse, see a shift in dynamic that takes this energy more into the positive, especially with this Saros cycle of heightened sensuality and sexuality and desire. And so, if you've got a good relationship, a strong, healthy relationship, it could get really fired up. It could be fun, like great. This could be such a gift and a blessing for putting more fuel into the love dynamic that you already share. Now, if you're in a different kind of relationship, a relationship that's more strained, where you've been walking on eggshells, where it feels like, oh, this is so hard, then I feel that this eclipse could trigger something that will cause the relationship to end. It will dissolve, it will break apart. And you've got to ask yourself, if that's what happens, is this really the relationship that was meant for you? You know, nobody wants to live like that. Nobody wants to live, you know, constantly tippy-toeing around somebody else's anger issues or somebody else's, you know, anyway, I don't need to go into it. You all know about that stuff. So this, as we've talked before, this energy is one for dissolving, for letting go, for releasing something. And it could be a relationship that is being released as a result of this particular lunar eclipse. But as opposed to Scorpio people, where they're the ones potentially instigating the end of a relationship, this will potentially be instigated by the partner. So it could be your marriage partner who says, I can't do this anymore, I'm done. Or it could be a business partner who says that. It could be it could be a big component of your audience or your clients who say, you know what, this is not working for me, so I'm going to go elsewhere. You know, if that happens, then maybe they weren't meant to be your clients, or maybe they weren't meant to be your audience. Maybe they're making space for the right audience, the right clients, the right partner, the right business associate to actually come in and take their place. Now, if you are single, Taurus, and you've got this eclipse happening in your 7th house, it can indicate suddenly falling in love with someone new now. So yes, that can be the case for many single people. There will be some single people who do not, based on what their natal chart is saying, but the opportunity is there. This is one of the key factors that we look for in seeing new love come in. And if you've done my When Will Love Come astrology course, which is such a great course, I'm really proud of that one, you'll know what the other indicators are. And when you've got, say, three or more indicators all happening at once, you can be fairly confident that new love is coming into your life in some way. Eclipses are very potent contributors to those particular relational triggers. So for some, where there's 3 or more triggers happening, this eclipse is going to bring in new love, new relationship. This is also a house of negotiations and mediations, business deals, dealing with lawyers, court cases that are not sort of the fractious court cases. You know, how sometimes you go through legal proceedings just to sort of set things straight, not because you're out to get each other. That's a 6th house, you know, like, I hate you and, you know, you did this to me and it's not fair and I'm going to drag you through court. 6th house. We need to negotiate business arrangements for the split of our company. That's a 7th house kind of court case. So this eclipse, being one of dissolving and ending and leaving things behind, is very much about ending those sorts of court cases. You've reached the end of the line with them. They reached the end of the negotiations or the business deals. They've come to a conclusion. So that's another thing that you can see unfold with this particular new moon, full moon eclipse. Now, if you would like to get access to videos like this, and I've got a huge back catalogue of videos at my Patreon page, then all you need to do is join the Patreon family to get 3 videos just like this one each month, and access to the back catalogue. And you're also going to get access to an extended version of this particular reading, because I break it down for another 5 to 10 minutes for each sign to get more juicy info out of. So do join the Patreon family. Links in the description below if you would like more access to juicy, lovely, wonderful astrology. And for all my Patreon family watching this, it's time to go deeper with our beautiful Taurus energy. Aries rising, sun or moon people. The energy of this eclipse is playing out for you in the 8th house. And of course, your rising sign and the 8th house sign are both ruled by Mars. So you are going to feel this eclipse quite powerfully, quite strongly, because the ruler is someone you're very familiar with, Mars. But basically, this eclipse is also seeing something leave our life, something end, something being let go of, something that's no longer needed anymore. So this in the 8th house indicates a really big season of change, rebirth, regeneration, rejuvenation, because this is the house of transformation. And when we let go of something, when we release it out of our lives, we can be utterly transformed. Now, this is also the realm of divorce, but it's divorce where we divide up the assets and split the the resources of the partner and go our own separate ways. So this eclipse could be, for those of you who are going through this, can sort of see you, ending in that regard and splitting things and rebirthing yourself financially in that way. That's one way this could manifest, but it could also manifest in just a general rebirthing, general change. There's end of the line with one way you've always been and a rebirth into something new. And that could be in many ways. Maybe how you identify yourself, maybe your personality, maybe how you go about living your life is about to change. Maybe every day you got up at 6 o'clock and you went for a walk and then you had breakfast and went to work and and that's the routine that you had, which is very sixth house, I might add. But you lived your life in a certain way, and then along comes this eclipse that causes big rebirth, and suddenly you're working night shift and you're sleeping in until 12 o'clock, and the whole dynamic of who you are and how you live your life and how you identify yourself takes a big shift. So I don't need to labor the point. Big regeneration, big change. Now it can be a very emotional time because it's an intense energy already, this eclipse, but very up and down. So you'll have, if you're in this state of roller coaster rides with your emotions, crying one day, joyful and elated the next, just allow that energy to flow through you. It's only for a short time during the eclipse activation season. And you just need to ride it out as best you can and learn what you can from the experience. I'll also add, Aries people, that because of the Saros cycle, which is highly sexualized, and this energy falling in your house of sex, that you could be feeling very amorous, very, hungry for a bit of a rendezvous under this energy. And so that could be potentially a lot of fun if you've got the means to fulfill that, which we all do, I might add. Nobody needs a partner to do that sort of thing. But certainly there is this heightened sexual desire that comes in with this eclipse. So use that to empower yourself. And I think I spoke about in the last eclipse video how much Tantra and sexual energy is a manifestation tool. So I would suggest, Aries, if you're interested, look into sex as a manifestation tool. Buy some books, do some research on that, because this eclipse energy is there for you to utilize in that regard. Powerfully, I might add. Very powerfully. So make the most of it while you can, Aries. Finally, for my YouTube audience, there will be amazing intuitive downloads that could happen for you now. Prophetic knowings, premonitions, just, goosebump moments where you're like, yep, I'm on the money with this. I feel right. This is the way it is. Trust your gut. Trust those goosebump moments and let them lead you forward into the next 6 months. Trust that inner knowing, especially with a lunar eclipse. You won't be being led astray. I have to say, Aries, that if you would like more about what's going on for you with this eclipse, I do go into greater depth at my Patreon family version of this video, and I'd love you to join me there if you can. There's access to a massive back catalogue of astrology videos and forecasts. You'll get 3 videos a month dealing with all sorts of astrological wonderful topics, but it's only $5 a month. And so if you want to know more about this eclipse, it's a perfect time to join the Patreon family. The link's in the description below. And now, for all my Patreon family members, let's go a little deeper. And thank you, Aries. Now it's time for Pisces. Pisces rising, Pisces sun, Pisces moon, people. The energy of this eclipse is affecting your 9th house. Scorpio is your 9th house, Pisces. So this is where we're reaching the end of the line with something. We're letting something go. We can even expect some sort of change to enter into our life through a 9th house mechanism. I feel that it's the end of the line for many of we Pisces people with some outdated belief system that we have carried. It is time now, under this eclipse, and this eclipse is going to do it for us, to broaden our horizons, to broaden our ethics and our morals out, our boundaries. And there's an old saying to stretch out your tent pegs, to pull the tent pegs out further and make the tent bigger, basically. And that's what we're doing. We're expanding our worldview. So this eclipse is going to bring about something into our lives that does that for us, that makes us feel bigger, more expanded, more abundant. Hurrah, what a great thing to experience. This is one of the blessing houses. And so there's a lot of great things that could come about for Pisces people in terms of personal growth, moving into your personal mission as a result of this eclipse. There could be a connection to another culture that unfolds, or maybe even a connection to another culture that might be ending under this influence. Funnily enough, I'll be traveling home from a trip overseas at the time of this eclipse activation period. So yeah, my time overseas in another culture will be ending, will be concluding. So very true. Already I can see how that eclipse is applying. But you might have had a business association with somebody from overseas. You might have been communicating with somebody who's in a foreign country, some kind of foreign affairs or international affairs that might be winding up and concluding under this eclipse, or you might be letting go of it now. This is a prophetic house. There's 3 prophetic houses, and this is one of them. So your intuition might be really heightened. Pisces, trust those goosebump moments. Trust your gut. Trust that beautiful internal guidance that you Pisces souls have. There's prophecy coming right at you with this eclipse. Now, remember that this Saros cycle is a cycle that is very sexualized and very desirous and lustful and all those things, which we briefly talked about. And this is the house of foreign places, foreign cultures. And so it's entirely possible that you might fall in love with somebody under this eclipse, so sort of have a rendezvous or a tete-a-tete with somebody from a different culture due to the Saros cycle of this eclipse, somebody from a faraway place. This is particularly true if we are looking at somebody who is looking for their second life partner. Second committed life partner would be seen for a Pisces person here. So that's very possible. But in order to do so, there's going to need to be some letting go of something. Maybe letting go of an old idea. I mean, if this was me, I might have to let go of the idea that I have always been single and I will always be single and I don't deserve relationship. I would have to let that idea go so that I could welcome in the love that this eclipse might be offering. Do you see how it works? There's a letting go of something internally within you so that you can welcome in something else. And yeah, this could be the case. Foreign relationships, especially for people who are looking for a second life connection, that might require some letting go of some area of their past or someone they used to be in a manner that no longer serves them any longer. So that's what I'm really seeing for our Pisces rising sun or moon people. I do feel that there is much more you would like to know, Pisces, about this eclipse. So why don't you join me at the Patreon family? You'll get, for $5 a month, you'll get access to a massive back catalogue of astrology videos, plus 3 astrology videos coming out each month, including 2 astrology forecasts. It's fantastic value. And I make my Patreon page quite a priority. I pray for my patrons every day. They're very dear to me. And so if you would like to find out more, what a good time to join when you can dive deeper into the astrology of this eclipse and what it means for you. Just head to the link in the description below and join right up. But for all my Patreon members who are watching their version of this video, let's go, guys. It's time to dive in deeper. Thank you, Pisces. Now we're moving on to our Aquarius friends, Aquarius rising, Aquarius sun, Aquarius moon. The energy of this stellar eclipse is falling for you in the 10th house. Now this is an angular house, so you will feel it quite predominantly, quite powerfully. Angular houses always manifest in a stronger way. But remember, this is about letting go. Some endings that are happening, sudden changes also. So what might this manifest like for our Aquarian friends? Well, basically, it's one of the parental houses, usually the father, and it indicates that there might be some changes in the life of a father figure. You know, maybe a father figure is moving away or changing the nature of their relationship with you in some way. You know, because this is an energy with this eclipse of saying endings and loss and letting go. It might be that there's a falling out with a father figure, or just, it doesn't have to be anything nasty. It can be just like, dad's moving into an old age home or something, or I'm moving to the other side of the country, so I won't see you as much anymore, dad. Some dynamic that is changing with a father, or as a mother-in-law. This is the house of our mother-in-law, so that can also be the case. Issues or losses associated with either of those parental figures. I would also add that if it's not a change in the dynamic of your relationship with them, you might notice that your father or mother-in-law is going through some significant changes themselves. Maybe there's a change in their reputation in the world, 10th house, or maybe they are more passionate and they're going out on the dating scene themselves or something like that, or something that is happening with your mother-in-law or your father that is different to their usual behavior. If that is the case, then you'll know, well, hey, it's because of the eclipse, and that's all right. Let the energy do what it needs to do. Now, because this is a full moon, the moon Luna is representative of significant maternal women in our life. So potentially in this realm of the chart, a significant woman or a female authority figure might actually provide some unexpected catalyst for you, like prompt you to rise into greater worldly success and recognition, or might give you a promotion. Sometimes it's not always happy, joy. Sometimes a significant woman, can undermine us, like the story I told you in the beginning of this particular video. A woman pulls the rug out from underneath you and destroys your reputation unwarranted. Now that's obviously given a worst case scenario, but keep in mind, eclipses are wild cards. You cannot predict how they're going to go, whether they're going to go good, go bad, our perceived idea of bad or our perceived idea of good. We have to be prepared for any eventuality. So I'm just covering all bases with this. One thing that can happen though with this eclipse, my Aquarian friends, is that this might generate a new position of leadership for you, new opportunity for you to show up in the world and shine your light in some way. But in order for that to happen, it indicates that something else needs to end. There's only so much space we've got for things in our lives. So you might be reaching the end of the line with one way of doing career and obtaining success in order for you to move into another way of doing career and obtaining success. Some of you Aquarius rising people will be discovering the career of your dreams under this influence. What a gift, what a blessing to find some significant meaning and purpose. Finally, this eclipse might bring about an event that causes hypersensitivity to your public image and your reputation. So just watch out for gossip or, difficult news about who you are and how you're showing up in the world and doing your life. There could be some challenges that change your life in some way like that. Now, I am offering extended versions of these readings where we go into how the rulerships and planets are affecting this particular eclipse for all signs. And if you would like to hear the extended version for your sign, why not join the Guiding Star Patreon family and watch that video. Plus, you get access to a massive back catalogue of astrology videos. You get 3 videos, including 2 astrological forecasts each month as a Patreon member, all for $5. So why not join? It's a great value. And for all my Patreon members who are watching this version of the Patreon version of this video, it's time to dive deeper into Aquarius. Thank you, Aquarius. Well, it's a lucky thing that I'm getting towards the end of my astro weather report here because my next door neighbours have fired up their lawnmower again. I swear they start that thing every second day. So it might disrupt the astro weather report from here on, and I do apologise if that's the case. Moving on to Capricorn rising, sun or moon people. The energy of the... Oh, you're going to stay. Fantastic. The energy of this eclipse is playing out through your 11th house. And this is where there might be some changes, might be reaching the end of the road with something in your life, Capricorn, where you'll be letting something go, where there could be some endings. So there's likely to be a changing dynamic with your friends. Some friends might be leaving your life now. But this is, remember, creating energetic space for new friends to come on in and be part of your life. So it could be the end of the line, but it's one of those things that's probably meant to be. It also could be the end of the line with some of the goals you might have set in the past. You might be throwing out old dreams and aspirations in order to direct your energy and your thoughts and your ambitions to something else, something that's more suitable to you now, something that's more in alignment with who you've become, with your purpose and your mission and your destiny. This can also indicate a change or an end of the line in some sort of way with an older sibling, because older siblings are seen through the 11th house. So, it might be worth reconnecting with an older sibling or just checking in. Are they doing okay? Because this could also be affecting their life and causing some sort of upheaval and change in the life of an older sibling as well. And you just want to make sure that they're doing all right. I do feel, my beautiful Capricorn people, that you will be encountering the right people at the right time. Probably a woman, I think, with the Luna being the activating energy here. Some woman who will help you with your dreams and goals and help you generate more gainfulness and profitability in your life. You might meet her now for the first time, and she might change your life going forward over the next 6 months. Or you might already know her, but the interactions during this eclipse season, they actually have the great potential to be surprisingly fruitful. This eclipse could also be changing your networks as well. You might have socialized with a certain group of people, and lo and behold, this eclipse comes along and it's like, I just don't fit with those people anymore. Okay, they're not what I would call friends, but they're my contacts, they're my associates, they're my crowd of, networking people. And so there might be a bit of a shift in that regard as well. So as you can see, some changes socially and some changes with ambition that might come into your life. Now, my beautiful Capricorn people, this is a very short YouTube version, but I do go greatly in depth with how this is playing out for all signs at my Patreon family. I've got a massive big video there. And you also, if you join the Patreon family, you'll also get access to a massive back catalogue of of videos that have been provided over the years to my Patreon family. It's growing every month. And every month you get 3 new astrology videos, 2 forecasts and an information video that can help you grow in your love for astrology. What a bargain. It's only $5. So join up if you want to know more about this eclipse energy and how it's playing out. And for all my Patreon members who are watching this video, it is time for you to dive deeper. And here we are at Sagittarius. Thank you, my beautiful Saggy friends, for hanging with me to the end of this video for your sign. I do apologize for the noise in the background. My neighbors start up their lawnmower and so on, hedge trimmers and things every second day. It drives me insane. So we are looking here at the eclipse falling in your 12th house. And this is like triple whammy energy of letting go, endings, concluding something in your life, because the moon is full with the north node. That's 2 indicators for letting go. Full moon, south node, letting go. Plus you're in the 12th house. 12th house is dissolution of things. So very much a time for Sagittarius to let go of old ways of being, old lives and their past. Time to say goodbye to the past, my Sagittarius friends. So that is one of the main messages of this eclipse, I must say. But in the 12th house, it's also giving you a lot of psychic downloads. The information that you get could really blow your mind, could be highly prophetic. So don't discount anything that comes through now. In fact, I would expect guidance in your dreams and your visions. Have a dream book by your bed just in case something comes to you at night. Very, very powerful time for getting intuition. A full moon is highly intuitive energy, as is the 12th house, as is Scorpio. It's all happening for you guys. So not only are you saying goodbye to old ways of being, I have a Sagittarius friend who is actually leaving everything they've ever known to make a whole new start, like big, big changes we're talking about. But some of you might be saying goodbye to an old habit, an old belief, a behavior. maybe saying goodbye to some old childhood trauma or some psychological wounds that are now being healed under this full moon, like a balm. It's a very powerful time for letting those things go, either consciously or unconsciously. So, you know, this is a very special moon in that regard for you guys. Because of this, some of you might feel that you need to isolate in order to cope with the heightened energies. So if you need to take time out to rest, to sleep, to escape in healthy ways, make sure you do so. You know, have a plan for what you're going to do. Maybe you want to go to the movies, or you know, curl up with a book or something that takes you out of the heavy duty energy and allows you to just escape for a while. But I would also encourage you to do the deep work, the journaling perhaps, the music therapy or art therapy, whatever kind of therapy you like, to help you process what's coming up for you subconsciously now, and so you can release it and let it go. Because this is, for some people, a placement that gives miraculous healing. The divine touches your life in some way and you are never the same. So my lovely Sagittarius friends, expect miracles. Expect that amazing things can come out of this eclipse. Things you would never have expected. Things that surprise you and knock your socks off. And that's what I'm seeing for our YouTube Sagittarius friends. I do go into greater depth for another sort of 10 minutes exploring what this sign is experiencing as a result of this eclipse. If you would like to access to that video, all you've got to do is join the Patreon family, where you'll get access to a massive back catalogue of videos, where you'll also get access to 3 videos a month, including a couple of forecasts that talk about what's coming up for you. So if you're interested in more and more and more astrology, it's the place to go. For only $5 a month, you can't go wrong. And now, for all my Patreon members who are watching their version of this video, let's dive deeper into Sagittarius.